Deep in the shadows of our planet's most remote and untouched woodlands, something ancient still moves just beyond the reach of human eyes. Have you ever stood at the edge of a dense forest at dusk, listening to the wind rustle through leaves that have never known a chainsaw, and wondered what might be watching you from the undergrowth? For centuries, explorers, indigenous peoples, and modern hikers have returned from these wild places with stories that defy explanation, tales of towering figures, elusive primates, and mysterious beings that science has yet to catalog. Today, we're venturing into the heart of the unknown to explore the legendary creatures that may still hide in the world's unexplored forests. Stick around until the end, because the most chilling accounts come from places you might actually visit, and one recent sighting could change how you think about that next hiking trip. Imagine stepping into the vast old-growth forests of the Pacific Northwest, where towering Douglas firs and redwoods create a canopy so thick that sunlight barely reaches the forest floor. Here, in this emerald labyrinth spanning millions of acres, the most famous of all forest cryptids is said to roam: Bigfoot, also known as Sasquatch. Witnesses describe a massive bipedal creature covered in dark hair, standing up to 10 feet tall, with broad shoulders and feet that leave prints measuring over 20 inches long. The legends didn't start with modern tabloids. Native American tribes across the region, from the Salish to the Hoopa, have long spoken of wild men or hairy giants that walk upright, emit bone-chilling howls, and possess an intelligence that allows them to evade capture for generations. One of the most compelling pieces of evidence remains the 1967 Patterson-Gimlin film, shot in Bluff Creek, California. In the grainy footage, a female Bigfoot strides across a clearing, turning her head to glance at the camera with what many interpret as calm awareness rather than panic. Skeptics claim it's a man in a suit, but analysts have pointed to the creature's unique gait, muscle movement under the hair, and proportions that are difficult to fake, even with today's technology. Thousands of sightings continue to pour in every year, hikers reporting sudden wood knocks as a form of communication, or the overpowering smell of wet fur and musk that lingers after an encounter. Could these be undiscovered relatives of early hominids, like Gigantopithecus, that somehow survived extinction in these isolated pockets of wilderness? The forests here are so immense and rugged that entire valleys remain unmapped by satellite in any meaningful detail, providing perfect cover for a shy, intelligent primate that wants nothing to do with us. Crossing oceans and continents, similar legends echo through the misty peaks of the Himalayas. There, locals and mountaineers speak of the Yeti, the abominable snowman, though it doesn't actually prefer the icy heights. Instead, it reportedly descends into the rhododendron forests and deep valleys below the snowline, where food is more abundant. Descriptions vary slightly. Some say it's white-furred and ape. Others describe a reddish-brown giant with a conical headbutt. The core traits remain enormous size, bipedal locomotion, and an ability to disappear into the terrain without a trace. In 1951, British explorer Eric Shipton photographed massive footprints in the snow near Mount Everest. Prints with a clear heel and 5 toes that measured over 13 inches. Later expeditions found similar tracks at lower elevations, in forested areas where no known animal could leave such marks. Indigenous Sherpa stories portray the Yeti not as a monster, but as a guardian spirit of the mountains, sometimes curious about humans, but quick to retreat when approached. Modern DNA tests on supposed Yeti hair and scat have yielded intriguing results, some matching known bears with unusual mutations, others showing sequences that don't quite align with any cataloged species. The Himalayan forests and adjacent jungles remain among the least explored high-altitude ecosystems on Earth, their steep ravines and seasonal mists creating natural barriers to thorough scientific survey. If a relic population of ancient apes survived here, adapting to the rugged terrain, it would explain why glimpses are rare but consistent across centuries of oral history. Travel further east to the dense tropical rainforests of Sumatra, Indonesia, and you'll encounter reports of a smaller but no less mysterious relative, the orangutan, or short person. Unlike its giant cousins, this creature stands only about 3 to 5 feet tall, with a stocky build, long arms, and a coat of dark hair. Eyewitnesses, including local farmers and Western researchers, describe it walking upright on the forest floor, occasionally raiding crops, but mostly keeping to the remote highlands. What makes the orang Pendek particularly fascinating is the volume of physical evidence footprints with a distinct human-like arch, but primate proportions, hair samples, and even sightings by trained naturalists. Cryptozoologists suggest it could be a surviving population of an unknown hominid, or perhaps a dwarf species of orangutan that evolved terrestrial habits in the thick Sumatra's Kurensi Sablot National Park and surrounding jungles contain millions of acres of unexplored terrain, much of it volcanic and inaccessible during the rainy season. Expeditions have captured strange calls on audio recorders and found nests unlike those of known apes. One researcher described coming face to face with a creature at close range. It regarded him calmly before melting back into the foliage without aggression. In a world where new primate species are still being discovered in these forests, the idea that something as remarkable as the orang pendek could remain hidden doesn't seem so far. Heading south to the ancient eucalyptus forests and rugged bushlands of Australia, Aboriginal Dreamtime stories tell of the Yowie, a hairy humanoid giant that has inhabited the continent long before European settlers arrived. Descriptions painted as tall and powerfully built, sometimes benevolent but often territorial, with a habit of emitting eerie screams that echo through the night. Modern sightings come from Queensland and New South Wales, where witnesses report creatures that leave massive tracks and display an uncanny ability to remain silent while moving through dry underbrush. The Australian wilderness is vast and varied. Some areas of old-growth forest have barely been touched by modern development, offering sanctuary to creatures that prefer solitude. One chilling account from the 1970s involved a family camping in the bush who claimed a Yowie approached their tent, its silhouette blocking out the stars before it retreated after a warning call. Skeptics point to misidentified kangaroos or feral animals, but the consistency of bipedal descriptions across indigenous and settler accounts suggests something more. Could the Yowie represent a surviving population of early human relatives that crossed land bridges during the Ice Age? Australia's isolation has preserved many unique species, and its deep forests continue to guard secrets. Not all forest legends involve ape-like beings. In the swamps and bayous of the American South, particularly the Honey Island swamp in Louisiana, tales persist of the swamp monster or Letitia, humanoid creature with reptilian features, said to be the offspring of alligators and something far stranger. Deeper in the Amazon rainforest, indigenous groups speak of the Mapinguari, a massive sloth-like beast with backward-facing feet, red fur, and a single eye or mouth in its belly. This creature is blamed for destroying crops and emitting a foul stench that drives away even the bravest hunters. The Amazon contains the largest tropical rainforest on Earth, with vast sections still unmapped and inaccessible due to dense canopy, flooding, and indigenous protections. Satellite imagery reveals hidden clearings and river systems that humans have never navigated, making it the perfect refuge for a large, elusive mammal that might be a distorted memory of extinct ground sloths or something entirely new to science. In the Pine Barrens of New Jersey, the Jersey Devil is said to haunt the forests, with its leathery wings and goat-like head, while Slavic folklore brings us the Leshy, a shape-shifting forest spirit that can grow as tall as the trees or shrink to the size of a blade of grass, leading travelers astray with mischievous laughter. These entities blur the line between cryptid and spirit, but they all thrive in the same environment. Wild, unbroken woodland, where nature still holds dominion. Even in more temperate zones, like the dense woodlands of the Pacific Northwest or the Black Forest of Germany, stories of Woodwo's wild forest men persist from medieval times. And let's not forget the Wendigo of Algonquian legend, a gaunt, cannibalistic spirit born from starvation in the endless northern forests. Its presence announced by an unnatural chill and the sound of cracking branches. What keeps these legends alive isn't just the undeniable fact that our planet still harbors unexplored corners. Vast tracts of rainforest in the Congo Basin, the cloud forests of Central America, and the taiga of Siberia remain biological blanks on the map. New species of insects, frogs, and even mammals are documented every year from these areas. If a small deer or monkey can evade detection for decades, why not something larger and smarter that actively avoids humans? Of course, science demands hard evidence, clear DNA, a body, or undeniable video. Most sightings rely on eyewitness testimony, blurry photos and footprints that could belong to bears or hoaxes. Yet the sheer volume of consistent reports from unrelated cultures across continents suggests we're missing something. Perhaps these creatures represent surviving pockets of our own evolutionary past, or animals that adapted perfectly to remain invisible in the green maze. As technology advances, drones with thermal imaging, environmental DNA sampling from soil and water, and citizen science, perhaps we may finally capture definitive proof. Or perhaps the forests will continue to protect their secrets, reminding us that the world is still wilder and more mysterious than we like to admit. So the next time you find yourself deep in the woods, far from trails and cell service, pause and listen. That rustle in the bushes might be the wind, or it might be something legendary stepping carefully just out of sight, watching the intruders in its ancient domain. The unexplored forests aren't empty, they're alive with possibility. What do you think is really out there? Drop your own theories or sighting stories in the comments below. Hit that like button if this gave you chills, and subscribe for more deep dives into the unexplained. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the next video, because in these forests, the truth might be closer than you realize. Thanks for watching. Stay curious. And remember, some legends aren't stories, they're warnings from the wild.